February 2021, and in today's lesson we're going to be building on our understanding of time. Yesterday we looked at quarter past on an analogue clock, and today we are going to be identifying quarter to on an analogue clock. So we're going to be building on what we already know. Okay children, time for the counting part of your lesson. So what I would like you to do is remember we're learning our 4 times table, so we're skip counting in 4s. Now again, I've left that little video link for you at the bottom of the screen, so you might want to go ahead and watch that video now and sing along with your 4 times table song. Then you can come back and start to answer some of the questions that you can see on the screen. Okay children, time to supertise. So first of all, I would like you to count the yellow dots. Good job everyone. Now let's count the black dots. Great work. Let's count those red dots now. Great job everybody. And how many stars can you see? Brilliant work, well done. Okay children, it's now time to review. So remember, in our first one we were looking for the yellow dots. There are 5. Well done if you said 5. In the second one we were looking for our black dots. Well done if you said 3. In the third one we were looking for those red spots, and I can see that there are 5. And finally, in our picture, we were looking for all of the stars, and I've spotted that there are 4. Well done if you managed to get some or all of these correct. Okay, children, it's time for our key vocabulary. So let's have a go at my turn, your turn. Hour, minute, hour hand, minute hand, quarter past, quarter to, o'clock, scale. Brilliant, well done everybody. Now remember, you should be using this key vocabulary throughout today's lesson. Okay children, let's complete the do now. If you've got the worksheet in front of you, you might want to get your pencils or pens ready, or if you've got your spare bit of paper, then you can complete it on there. So in the do now, it's asking us to do 2 things. The first thing that we need to do is we need to identify what time it is on this clock here. Okay, so that's the first step that we need to do. Now, this clock is a little bit different, and the other clocks are a little bit different to the ones that we've been looking at in previous lessons. Because if you look at the hands of the clock, the minute hand and the hour hand, they are not in red and blue. I'm just highlighting them for you now. They're not in red and blue this time. So we've got to be able to identify which one's the minute hand and which one is the hour hand. Okay, because remember, our minute hand was the blue one, and that links to the scale around the clock, which goes up in the 5 times table. And the hour hand is simply which hour of the day it is, and that was the red hand, okay? Now, I don't know whether any of you noticed in the previous lessons, but usually the blue hand was a little bit longer, wasn't it? And I like to think this is because it's passing through the hour number and pointing to the scale around the clock. So you know where it says the minute scale, where it's counting up in the 5s? That's how I like to imagine it. Okay, so maybe you'll be able to imagine it like that too. And the hour hand is shorter because it's showing and pointing to that hour that's shown on the clock, so the 1 through till 12. Okay, so we're looking first of all to identify where the minute hand is pointing and where the hour hand is pointing. Well, we can see that the minute hand, the longer one, is pointing to the number 12. And you might want to say it now. If we know it's pointing to the number 12, is it quarter past, half past, quarter to, or o'clock? Well done if you said it's o'clock, because we always know that when the minute hand is pointing all the way to the top of the clock, we know that we say this as o'clock. So now we need to think about the hour that it is pointing to. What hour is this clock pointing to? Well done if you managed to identify that it's pointing to the 4. The smaller hand is pointing to the 4, isn't it? So that means that it is 4 o'clock. Okay, the next thing that we need to do, I'm really sorry about my writing, everybody. It's really difficult to write with a mouse. There we are. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to do the second part of the task. So this is the second part of the task. It's asking us to think about what time it will be in 1 hour. So when that minute hand has gone all the way around the clock, and it's passed through all of those numbers and goes back up to the top, the hour hand will then move on to the next number, because it will have been 60 full minutes when that minute hand has gone round, and that means that we can move on to the next hour. So what will the next hour be? Well done if you said it was 5 o'clock, and we can go ahead and find that 5 o'clock now, can't we? And we can circle it. So if you'd like to do that on your worksheet, then you can go ahead. Okay, children, it's time to revisit the learning from yesterday. So what I would like you to do is I would like you now to pause the video and have a little go at reading the time on each of the clocks. Remember, if the minute hand or the blue hand is pointing to 12, it means it's o'clock. If it's pointing to 3, it means it's quarter past. And if it's pointing down at the 6, it means it's half past. Okay? So have a little go at answering the questions there and seeing what time it is on each of the clocks. Okay, well done everybody. Welcome back. I hope you've had the opportunity to find out the time and read it on each of these clocks. This first one shows 1:30. The second one shows 4:30. The third one shows 3 o'clock. The fourth one shows 4:15. And the fifth one shows 2:15. Well done if you managed to get some of those correct. Okay, children, I just wanted to draw your attention to this picture, okay? Now, yesterday I was explaining about this, but I think this clock just really highlights what I was trying to say as I was drawing yesterday all over my clocks. So if we're looking, I said yesterday that we split our clock in half, don't we? And we call one half of it past and the other half of it to. And you can quite clearly see there that the yellow half of our clock is past. So we say that it's past the hour. And the blue half of our clock is to. And that just means that we're counting to the next hour then. Once we pass that halfway mark, we're then counting to the next hour. So hopefully that just is a real visual way for you to see the past and the to there. Now, when you're completing your work today, you may want to look back at this picture, okay? Because this picture will really, really help you when you're drawing your times on your clock. So please make sure that you come back to this slide. So you might want to make a note of the time in the video, and then you'll be able to look at it whilst you're doing your independent tasks today, and it will really, really support you. Okay? Excellent. Okay, children, it's time for our new learning now. So, what time does this clock show? And how do you know that? Now, we know that the hour hand is pointing at the number 1. The red one is pointing at the number 1, and we know that's our hour one because it is slightly smaller than our minute hand. And when we're learning how to tell the time, it's often in red and blue. and we know that the red one is our hour hand, okay? And we know that when the minute hand is pointing to the number 3, we know that it's a quarter of the way around our clock. So we can quite clearly see there that the time that is showing is 1:15. Now, I just want you to have a look at this clock and I want you to tell me, what do you notice? So maybe you could pause the video and have a little think or discuss, what do you notice about the first clock and the second clock? What's changed? What do you notice? Off you go. Amazing. Some of you may have said that now the minute hand has moved, the blue one has moved, hasn't it? It's moved from the 3 and it's now pointing at the 9. We can also see that the hour hand has slightly moved away from the 1. It's not all the way off the 1 yet. It's just moved ever so slightly off the 1 and it's nearer to the 2, isn't it? Okay, and the reason for this is because the time that's now showing on the clock is not 1/4 past the hour, it's 1/4 the hour. And like I was explaining with that picture earlier on, when we're talking about past the hour, we're always thinking about that the number before, aren't we? So in this case, we'd be thinking about the number 1. But when we're thinking about the 2 side of our clock, it means it's edging closer to the next hour, isn't it? And we know that when that blue hand has moved all the way around our clock from the number 12 all the way around back to the number 12, we know that's been 60 minutes and we know that that's a full hour. So then the hour hand will then move on to the next number. So in this case, it would be the number 2, wouldn't it? So we call this 1:45, okay? I know that's pretty tricky to say. Let's have a go at practicing that. 1:45. Brilliant, okay? So all we need to know is that if the minute hand is pointing to the number 3, it's 1/4 past. And if it's pointing to the number 9, then it's 1:45, okay? So number 3 is 1/4 past. And number 9 is 1:45. And the reason for this, children, is because of this, okay? Let me just draw something out for you now, okay? So if we imagine our circles, we're going back to those fractions of quantity again. If we imagine our clock as being a circle, if we half it and half it again, we know that this part here is 1/4, don't we? And we know that if we have the first one, the second one, and the third one, we know that that's 3/4. And we know that when it's pointing at the number 9, it's 3/4 of the way around our clock. So we call this 1:45. So that's the difference between those two numbers. So we're looking at 1/4 past when it's on the number 3, and we're looking at 1:45 when it's on the number 9. Okay, so I like to think of it in terms of these fractions because it really helps me to keep track of what I need to call it. Okay, maybe that will help you as well. But all you need to remember is if it's at the number 3, then it's 1/4 past. If it's at the number 9, then it's 1:45. And obviously, if it's on the number 6, then it's 1/2 past. And if it's on the number 12, then it's o'clock. Okay, so you might just want to have a little practice of that now, to be honest. You might want to say, you might want to go around your clock and maybe point at each of those numbers. So maybe point at 12 and say o'clock. Point at 3 and say 1/4 past. Point at 6 and say 1/2 past. And point at 9 and say 1:45. So you might want to pause the video now and maybe have a little practice of saying each of those to really help you to consolidate that understanding. Okay, right, let's move on to our next slide. Okay, it's now time for our talk task. So hopefully The last slide will enable you to be able to read some of the times on these clocks. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to pause the video and maybe try reading the times for each. And then when you come back, I will reveal, you can press play again, and I will reveal what each of the times say, okay? Shall we do the first one together? Let's have a little go. So in this first clock, I can see that the minute hand, the blue one, is pointing to the number 3. So I know it's going to be 1/4 past. And I can also see that the hour hand, the red one, is pointing to 11. So I know that the time on that clock says 1/4 past 11. Okay, so maybe you could have a go for the rest of the clocks. Now, pause the video and off you go. Okay, children, you may now be back with me. And what I'm going to do is I am now going to reveal the answers to the times on each of the clocks to see whether you got them right. So we've already done number 1, it was 1/4 past 11. Number 2 was not 1/4 past, it was 1/4 because the blue hand, the minute hand, is pointing to the 9. So it is 1/4. Oh, is that 5 or is it 6? Well, it's nearly at the 6. So I'm going to say it's 5:45. Let's have a look at number 3. Oh, the minute hand is pointing at the 9 again. So I know it's 1/4. Oh, and let's have a look at that hour hand. It's in the middle of 11 and 12. So I'm going to go for the number that's next because remember, it's 2 the next hour. So it's 1:45. Well done if you managed to get that one correct. Let's have a look at number 4 then. Number 4, let's have a look at that. Now, our minute hand is pointing at the 9, so we know that is at 1/4. And then we can see that the red hand is almost at that number 4. So we can say that number 4 is 4:45. And let's look at number 5. Number 5, it's not pointing at the 9 this time. So I know it's not 1/4. I know that this one is 1/4 past. And it's 1/4 past. Ooh, do we go for 10 or 11 here? Well done if you managed to spot that we do go to 10 because it's past the hour of 10 here, isn't it? So we're not going up to the next number, we're sticking at the one before, and of course that one is 10. So it's 1/4 past 10 in that one. That was a very tricky one. Now let's look at number 6. Number 6 is pointing at the 9 again, so we know that that is 1/4, and we can see that it's almost on the number 1 there. So we can see that it is 1/4, okay? So well done if you managed to get some or all of those correct. And please remember, if you didn't manage to get some of those correct or you did get a couple of them wrong, that's absolutely okay because this is the first time that we've done this and it's really important that we have a growth mindset. And time is tricky. Time's a tricky thing to learn, especially when we're doing it online. So please don't be too worried if you did get any of those wrong because we can work through it together, okay? But well done if you managed to get some or all of those correct. Okay, children, let's have a practice at writing 1/4 the hour. So here you can see that we've got 3 clocks. We've got our first clock, let me just write that, 1, 2, and 3, okay? Now, first of all, let's just have a look at the first one. So we can see that the minute hand is 3/4 of the way around the clock. And we can see that it is pointing at 9, okay? So that means that it is 1/4 the hour, doesn't it? Because if we remember, we've got, if it's pointing at 12, it's o'clock. If it's pointing at 3, it is 1/4 past. If it's pointing at 6, it is 1/2 past. And if it's pointing at 9, it is 1/4 to, okay? So those 4 different things you need to remember and have locked in your brain so that that can help you to tell the time, okay? So if we look at the first one, we know the minute hand is on 9, so we know it's 1:45, and we can see that the hour hand is pointing almost on the number 4. So we read this as 4:45. Brilliant work if you managed to get that correct. Let's have a look at number 2 then. We can see that the minute hand, or the blue hand, is 1/4 of the way around our clock, okay? And it is pointing to the number 3. We know that it's on the past side of the clock, not the to side, because remember, when it gets all the way around to that 6 or the half past, we know that's when we start to say 2 after that, don't we? So we know it's on the past side of the clock. So we say that it is 1/4 something. What hour is it past? Where is the hour hand? Well done if you've spotted that it is 4:15 in this clock, because remember, when we're saying the hour that it's on, we always look at the hour hand and look where it is pointing, okay? So clock number 2 reads 4:15. Let's look at number 3 then. We can see that number 3 is 3/4 of the way around the clock, and we can see that the minute hand is pointing at the number 9. We know that when the minute hand is pointing at the number 9, we know that it's on the to side of the clock, isn't it? So we say that this is 1/4 the hour. Can anybody think which hour it is 1/4 there? Which one is the red one almost pointing at? Well done if you said 5. We can see that this clock reads 5:45, can't we? Because we know that it's on the to side, and we know that it is pointing at 9, and that tells us that it is 1/4 the hour. Okay, so let's have a look at these 3 clocks now. I would like you to pause the video because we've developed our learning that little bit further now. I'd like you to pause the video and maybe have a go at reading the times on these clocks, okay? So remember, you're looking where your minute hand is pointing first, and then you're looking at where your hour hand is pointing to, and that will enable you to say which time it is on each of the clocks. Off you go. Okay, children, so you should now have had a real good go at telling the time on each of these clocks. I'm now going to reveal the answer to you. So we can see in the first one, the minute hand is pointing at 9, and we know that means that it is 1/4 the hour. So in this example, the hour hand is pointing at 8 or almost at 8, so we say it is 7:45. In the second example, we can see that the minute hand is pointing at 3, and we call this 1/4 the hour. And we can see that it is pointing at the number 8. So we say that this is 8:15. We can see in number 3, the minute hand is again pointing at the number 9. So we know that that's 1/4. And we can see that the hour hand is pointing at the number 9 as well. So we know it is 9:15. Brilliant work, everybody. Well done. Okay, children, so in today's main activity, you're going to be doing something similar to what you did yesterday. You're going to be, first of all, drawing a line to each of the clocks to match up the time written underneath, okay? So have a good look at each of the 3 clocks at the top of the page, and then you can identify the timings underneath, okay? Then what I would like you to do is, on the second part of the activity, you're going to be looking at the clocks, and they're all blank at the moment. Your job is to draw the hands on these clocks. So just like yesterday, you may want to use your blue and red pens or colouring pencils, and you'll be able to draw the minute hand in blue and the hour hand in red. So you're going to have a little go at working through each of those to draw the hands on each of the clocks. Okay, so remember, if it's pointing at 12, it's o'clock. If it's pointing at 3, it's quarter past. If it's pointing at the 6, then it is half past. And if it is pointing at the 9, then it is quarter to. Okay, so you can have a little go at working out or showing the time on each of those clocks. Now, if you would like to join in with the Chilli Challenge too, if you go to the next slide, I'll be talking you through what I would like you to do for the Chilli Challenge too, okay? Okay, children, I'm just going to explain the Chilli Challenge to you as well. So if you want to challenge yourself to this, then you can do. Okay, now, I've just got the big picture of the clock again for you. And the Chilli Challenge is asking us how many minutes there are in quarter of an hour. Now, if we were to split our big clock into half and then half again, that would give us our quarters, wouldn't it? Okay, so let me just do that for you now. So I'm going to split it in half, and then I'm going to split it in half again, okay? So we can clearly see now that our clock is in quarters, because a quarter means that we've split it into 4 equal pieces, doesn't it? Okay, so there's 1 quarter here. Let me just write 1. There's 1 quarter there. There's 1 quarter here. And there's a final quarter there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters. Okay, now each one of those quarters, because they are equal, they are all worth the same amount. Now, using our scale, remember when we were counting with our scale around the clock, so we had 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on, all the way around our clock in our 5 times tables. This helps us to identify how many minutes there are in 1 quarter of an hour. So have a little think and try to read my scale now. How many minutes do you think are in this quarter? Okay, remember they're all the same. They're all worth the same amount because they are equal. How many are in that first quarter? So count on your scale now and see if you can work out how many minutes are in a quarter of an hour, okay? Right, I hope that helps you with your Chilli Challenge question for today, and I look forward to seeing all of your answers on your worksheet. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you for some more maths tomorrow.